What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. In today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the AK-27, and let's start this off, as always, with our rate of fire, which is 682 rounds per minute. That's pretty close to average for an assault rifle, so not bad, but also not great. And this gun will be a 4 to 6 shot kill depending on our range, and right up close and personal, our time to kill with a 4-shot kill is 264 milliseconds, which is pretty good for an assault rifle. As for headshots, we do have the potential to get a 3-shot kill up close if every bullet hits the head for a 176 millisecond time to kill. That's insanely fast, but it's fairly unlikely you're going to hit all 3 shots in a row to the head, so you could use the headshot barrel, which will cut that down by another shot. As far as mid to longer range headshots go though, they're fairly effective. Even without the headshot barrel, you just need to mix 2 headshots in with body shots to reduce the number of shots to kill. Now let's have a look at our ranges, and our 4-shot kill potential's not bad at all at about 21 meters. And then our 5-shot kill range will extend out to about 51 meters, and that's actually quite impressive. You're not going to find too many really consistent fights beyond 51 meters in this game, so it is going to be a fairly consistent 4 to 5-shot kill. And our velocity value is pretty close to average for an assault rifle at 700 meters per second, which gives us a hit scan range at 35 meters. And what this all means when it comes to our barrels that impact range and velocity, out of these 3, honestly, I just like increasing that 4-shot kill range as much as possible, and therefore I lean in the direction of the long barrel. In saying that, the hybrid barrel wouldn't be a bad choice if you are going to be using one of these. I just wouldn't necessarily go with the velocity barrel for regular 6v6 multiplayer. Also, this is normally where I'd cover rapid fire. However, rapid fire is the prestige attachment on this, so we're going to be covering that after we cover all of the base stats. But then let's have a quick look at hardcore game modes, and the AK-27 is actually very, very good in hardcore, as its 1-shot kill range to the body extends out to 51 meters. While of course everything is usable in hardcore, I would say the AK-27 is one of the standouts. Next up, let's have a look at Hipfire, and this is an area where the AK-27 isn't so good. It actually has the worst hipfire spread in the assault rifle category by a noticeable margin, so they've really kept it in check in that particular area. And then let's have a look at recoil, and we have a very interesting recoil pattern with the AK-27. For the first 7 to 8 shots that you fire, this gun kicks pretty much straight upwards with very little horizontal recoil, but then after that 7th or 8th shot, it immediately cuts super hard to the right, and then it becomes almost all entirely horizontal recoil. So it's definitely one of those recoil patterns you have to be very aware of. It's also a case where if you are killing within your first several shots, like you should be if you've got decent aim, then this gun is very accurate because you don't have to worry about that horizontal recoil kicking in. But if you do find yourself spraying and praying with this, that horizontal recoil could really throw you off. But then again, it's also something that can be adapted to because it is very predictable and consistent. In either case, this brings us into our handling stats, which are not great for an assault rifle. Our aim down sight time is 270 milliseconds, which is definitely on the slower side. Then when it comes to our sprint out time, it's actually the slowest in the assault rifle category at 250 milliseconds. And we see a similar trend there with our slide to fire and dive to fire time. Both of these are definitely on the slower side for the assault rifle category, so this gun doesn't excel in the handling department. But then let's have a look at our reload time, and our reload add time is right around average for an assault rifle at 1.92 seconds, and we have a standard magazine capacity at 30 rounds. However, we could use the flip mag for a slightly faster reload. It actually doesn't improve our reload speeds as much as most flip mags would, but the 25 round fast mag does help quite a bit there. For the 40 round extended mag, it's not meant to improve your reload speed or change your reload speed at all. It technically very slightly improves it, but you probably wouldn't even notice that difference. And it's a similar story with the extended mag 2, the 50 round mag. It says it's meant to be harming our reload time, but as you can see, it's only 1/10 of a second slower than the base reload time. So effectively speaking, there's no change to your reload time here. You just get a larger magazine. However, it does also hurt your handling stats. And then finally, for our base stats, we have our movement speed stats. And just like with handling, this gun does not do very well here. In fact, it has the slowest movement speeds in the assault rifle category across the board. And now that we've got all of those base stats out of the way, we can now move into the prestige attachment, which, as I said earlier, is the rapid fire attachment or the enhanced cycle system. And with this, we get a very big boost to our rate of fire, up to 811 rounds per minute. That's much more of a boost than you would normally see with a typical rapid fire attachment. However, this does come at the cost of a roughly 7.5% reduction to our damage range as well as our velocity value, which isn't as much of a harm to that as you would normally see with a rapid fire attachment. So more upside, less downside there. Also, it is worth noting our time to kill potential is now incredible. In that 4-shot kill range, it's 222 milliseconds, which is going to be beating essentially every SMG in the game up close. So a very nice boost to our raw power. However, the big change that comes with this that you don't normally see with a rapid fire attachment in this game is it completely changes how our recoil works with this gun. What it does is it literally eliminates horizontal recoil while massively increasing the total amount of vertical recoil that you experience. And we can see there, it climbs like crazy, but it doesn't drift to the left or right at all. You might see some rounds that hit a little bit left or right of the center line. That has to do with recoil stabilization or lack thereof. Also the gun kick value, that will cause you to sometimes kick a little bit left or right, but the recoil path itself is perfectly straight upwards. Also, when it comes to that vertical recoil, there is less of that recoil early on when you first start firing. It does increase over time as you continue to hold the trigger down, so that's another thing to be aware of with that. But overall, I would just say this recoil pattern is very different. It can be difficult to compensate for that level of vertical recoil because it does want to climb very hard on you. But at the same time, vertical recoil is generally much easier to control than horizontal recoil. And without this attachment, the AK has a lot of horizontal recoil after 7 or 8 shots. So I wouldn't necessarily say this recoil pattern is straight up better or worse. It's just very different. And as a result, with everything considered there with this Prestige attachment, I really like it just for its insane increase to the raw power potential of the gun. It makes it so you can be very competitive in close to mid ranges with even SMGs in this game. It's just, it might be a little bit difficult to keep that recoil under control if you're trying to stretch your range out at all due to how quickly it climbs. And with all of that covered, we can finally move into some excellent attachment combinations that I've got for you guys. And the first one is my balanced stealth build. So with this, we're using a suppressor to stay off the radar. We're using the long barrel that increases our range by 30%. We've got the lateral precision stock, which helps with that horizontal recoil, just in case we do spray and pray a little bit for longer than that 7 to 8 shots. Then the horizontal recoil doesn't hit nearly as hard as it would without this. For our rear grip, we've got the one that helps with our aim down sight, slide to fire, and dive to fire speeds. And then finally, we're just topping this off with buffer springs for a little bit more of a recoil improvement there. And in my eyes, at least, this just makes for a nice balanced all-arounder. I really like the iron sights on this gun as well, so I really feel no need to use an optic on it. And this one does work quite well. You just have to be aware of the fact that your sprint out time is still going to be quite slow on that. And also, our movement speeds aren't great, so I wouldn't anticipate getting around the map like crazy or strafing in gunfights really effectively, or coming out of sprint and hitting shots right away. But outside of those areas, which can be compensated for by simply adjusting your playstyle a bit, this setup does quite well. Now, if you want to go all out on attachments, here is a great gunfighter build that I put together. And with this, we're using an elo sight, the compensator to help with vertical recoil, because we're also using the rapid fire Prestige attachment, which is all vertical recoil. So we want to bring that down as much as possible. We once again have the long barrel on there. We've got the 40 round mag, the grip that goes all in on aim down sight time, so we can get that down to a level that's pretty balanced with our sprint out time at 251 milliseconds. We're using the heavy stock, which is going to be helping us with recoil even more, as well as a 3 milliwatt laser that not only helps a bit with damage range, so we see a net 38% improvement to our damage range with this, which is very solid, but this also helps with recoil stabilization, which is nice with the Prestige attachment because it pretty much eliminates the shots that will randomly deviate off of that perfectly straight vertical line. And speaking of recoil overall with this, it really cuts down on how quickly it climbs, especially with the initial shots fired. It makes this a reasonably accurate gun. You still have to pull down to compensate, but not nearly as much as without all of these attachments. And this just makes for a very deadly build when it comes to raw power, because we're getting a time to kill potential that's better than all of the full auto SMGs up close, and that extends out to 30 meters. That's our 4-shot kill range with this, which is well beyond the maximum damage range of any of the SMGs. So raw power-wise, there are very few guns in the game that can touch this. You're just not going to be excelling in the handling or mobility department. Now, I've got one last build I wanted to share for you guys, and this is just my rapid stealth build. So we're once again using that rapid fire attachment, but this time we don't have to use gunfighter. And with it, I also want to stay off the radar, so I'm using a suppressor. We once again have the long range barrel on here, the 40 round mag, and then the rear grip that helps with aim down sight, slide to fire, and dive to fire speeds. Now with this one, you really want to keep yourself more so up close and personal, out to maybe a bit of a mid-range, I guess you could push it, just due to the amount of recoil that you'll be experiencing. But I find as long as you're controlling your ranges appropriately, this is another excellent way to use this gun, again, without having to use the gunfighter attachment like with the previous build, which is clearly a superior build, but it does eat up your wild card. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the AK-27. When it comes to my thoughts on this gun, I really like it. I think it's a really nice overall gun. Even without the prestige attachment, I think it plays quite well as long as you're not being quite as aggressive as some of the other assault rifles or definitely SMGs. And then with that prestige attachment, it turns this thing into an absolute monster if you don't mind that really quick climb to your recoil. And I think it's nice and interesting what you can do with that. So I'm personally a big fan of the AK-27, but this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How do you feel about this gun and its unique prestige attachment? Do you guys generally like it, or maybe not so much? Now, if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will have a link to the playlist in the description of the video. And if you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.